Penn State fans, Michigan fans, have at it. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis based on your participation. Penn State joined the Big Ten in 1993. A lot of analysts, observers thought that the Nittany Lions and Joe Paterno would dominate their new conference. That would not happen. They've been contenders for the most part during their 30-plus year stay, but not dominating this conference. But that was the thought initially based on Joe Paterno's performance in Penn State in the 1980s and early 90s. Michigan, Penn State over the last decade, 15 to 20 years, have obviously been the two teams struggling, striving to get past Ohio State and bring down the Buckeyes. Michigan finally did it, and they've done it 3 years in a row. Penn State looked like they might be the first to get to Ohio State and bring them down. They did briefly in 2016. Let's match up Penn State and Michigan. This request coming in from Blake Tillman, 8116. This one's for you and everybody that's a Michigan and Penn State fan. And if you love college football, you love these comparisons. Let's break it down. During that time, Michigan's won 273 football games against 115 losses. The winning percentage just north of 70%. Jim Harbaugh, of course, kicked it in at 40-3 the past 3 seasons. He is 90-25 overall. The down period for Michigan, of course, 46-42 with Rich Rod and Brady Hoke at the helm from 2008 until 2014. For Penn State, they're just a couple ticks behind, and this is going to be a theme. 266-120 overall record, 689 winning percentage. They had a tremendous run right at the beginning of our testing period, 1993 joining the Big Ten for the first time, and on through 1999, Penn State went 74-17 under James Franklin. Penn State is 89-39. Now checking how the two stack up in conference play. Michigan at 174-78 in conference. That's a 69 winning percentage. 27-1 the last 3 years. Jim Harbaugh 61-17 in conference play. For Penn State, not far behind, 162-94. That's a 633 winning percentage. James Franklin at 56-32 in the Big Ten. 7-2 the past 2 years. 14-4, of course, all 4 of those losses to Ohio State and Michigan. Keep in mind that much of what we see here, despite Penn State fielding a fine football team the last 2 years at 11-2 with a Rose Bowl win and 10-3 this past season, has gone in Michigan's favor decidedly in the last 3 years, and Michigan dominating the Big Ten and winning a national championship this past season. So if we look at the conference titles during this time frame, Michigan with 8, 5 outright. So only 2 outright from 1993 through 2020. The 3-0 record for conference championship games for Michigan came, of course, in 21, 22, 23. For Penn State, 4 conference championships total, 3 outright, and they won the 2016 Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis over Wisconsin. Big asterisk coming up. Michigan's won 2 national championships. Many detractors would say they split one in 1997, which of course they did. But I am fully on the side of Michigan claiming a national championship, a full national championship, and Nebraska also claiming a full national championship. They can't control what they can't play. Also keep in mind, though, that while Michigan has owned 2 national championships during this time frame and Penn State 0, Penn State played the same season with the same credentials in the same situation in 1994 against Nebraska, ironically, than Michigan did in 1997. So while the national championship count is 2-0 Michigan, it's actually 2-1. Let's be honest, let's be fair, let's be smarter than the national pollsters. Taking it to ranked finishes in the final AP poll, it looks like this. Michigan has finished ranked during these 31 football seasons 23 times. Penn State 18. Michigan 5 times in the top 5, of course, 3 consecutive over the past 3 seasons, and 9 top 10 finishes for Michigan football. Penn State, only 2 top 5 finishes. Penn State did eke out the comparison of top 10 finishes 10-9, despite, of course, Michigan with 3 consecutive top 10 finishes. Head-to-head counts, and it should count. And Michigan and Penn State, of course, play almost every season since Penn State's arrival in 1993. and did as members of the Eastern Division from 2014 through 2023. Michigan owns a decided lead here, 17-10. And then if we look at individual coaching records, some of the more notable coaches here, Jim Harbaugh 6-3 against Penn State, having won the last three. You've got James Franklin at 3-7, having lost the last three. Lloyd Carwin 9-3. That is a impressive mark considering the teams that he went up against at Penn State and Joe Paterno. And speaking of Joe Pa, the legendary coach, 6 wins, 10 losses against the Maize and Blue. And Joe Paterno's postseason record is sterling. And Penn State was playing mostly in major bowl games, as, of course, they had a tremendous run in the 1970s and 80s in particular. So we're missing some of the great Penn State teams and missing most of Joe Paterno's sterling postseason record, although 14-10 is still solid for Penn State during this time. And a major bowl record of 6-3, and consider that James Franklin has, on a fairly regular basis, taken Penn State to major New Year's Six bowl games, losing this past year to Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl, losing the Rose Bowl in 2016 to USC, but defeating Washington in the Fiesta Bowl, defeating Utah in the Rose Bowl, and of course there was a Cotton Bowl win against Memphis as well. Michigan just 12-16 in postseason play. They've had their struggles, especially under Jim Harbaugh, but despite 5-7 overall in major bowl games, and most of those wins came in the 90s, then they didn't have one forever. Brady Hoke picked up one in the 2011 Sugar Bowl, and then Jim Harbaugh, of course, was shut out of the major bowl win category until 2 mammoth wins against Alabama and Washington to win the national championship. Michigan at 2-2 in college football playoff appearances. Penn State has yet to reach the playoffs, and of course they've got the hope of the 12-team field. That's what Penn State and Michigan have done on the field since 1993. Now let's look at the best players and the accolades that have come down for these two programs, and then how they have moved players on to the NFL. All-Americans, Michigan leads 24-17 there. And then if we're looking at major awards, so this is every major award at every position, all the positions, offense and defense, Michigan holds a slight 11-10 advantage here, and they own the big trophy with Charles Woodson's Heisman Trophy in 1997. Along the line, of course, Woodson also won the Thorpe Award in 97 and the Nagurski. Braylon Edwards owns Michigan's Lone Biletnikoff Award trophy in 2004. Olu Oluwatimi with 2 major trophies with the Outland and also the Remington in 2022, the most recent of the Michigan awards. On the Penn State side, we see Paul Posluszny won back-to-back Bednarik Awards in 2005 and 2006. He also won the Butkus in 2005. Larry Johnson with the Doak Walker Award in 2002. Kerry Collins, the best quarterback in college football, according to the Davey O'Brien voters in 1994. And you see that strong linebacking core and that tradition that carried into the 90s and 2000s with Posluszny, with Dan Connor, with LeVar Arrington as well. Michigan is primed to flood the NFL draft here in 2024. And of course, it's been a steady flow for Michigan football for the most part since 1993, but a close comparison between Michigan and Penn State NFL products, not looking at how they achieved in the NFL, but their draft status. Michigan edges Penn State 145-137 in the NFL draft. And then in regards to first rounders, again, it's close. Michigan 26, Penn State 21. The numbers are close across the board, but the numbers are also consistently in Michigan's favor. Michigan, the better program over Penn State since 1993. Now, had Penn State broken through in the last 3 years and done what Michigan had done, I'm thinking we're looking at the exact opposite evaluation. But it's been Michigan to get it done here, of course, in 2021, 22, 23 with the national championship. Add the 97 national championship, more conference titles, just a slightly better record, more NFL draft selections. Across the board, Michigan won basically every category that we have presented here. Blake Tillman, 8116. Thank you so much for the request. We will take them. Give us the two programs and the time period that you want us to evaluate right here at the Voice of College Football.